My name is Michael Polsinelli. I got involved with election integrity work in 2004. I live in Cuyahoga County in Ohio. And in 2004, we had a recount for the presidential election. And it turned out that my wife and I were observers for that recount. And it turned out that recount was basically fraudulent. There were a couple of people that eventually got sentenced to prison, and that just kind of made me realize about the vulnerabilities of our electoral system. I've been kind of like a fair weather friend with the election integrity issues coming in around elections every 2 to 4 years, doing different things. I've worked as an observer for the Green Party. I've worked with a citizens exit poll. Did some work doing chain of custody witnessing type things. So usually what I've been doing is just kind of showing up every 2 to 4 years, do my thing, do my part, and then kind of let people know about it, but then kind of disappear and after a little bit. I need to try and do that. I'm sorry. I was seeing some things that was bothering me. All right, so basically what I wanted to do is let people know some of the things that we've found so far with the recounts. We've been kind of so focused on getting things done, working from one crisis to another, that we really haven't been communicating with people about some of the things that we've found. And I want to talk about each of the different states that there were a recount in. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and also with Nevada. So first of all, one of the things that we found, so I'm going to talk about Pennsylvania first. One of the things that we've found with Pennsylvania is that, basically there are these draconian laws on how a recount can happen, who can request it. Basically, having a recount is, I'd say, illegal, or essentially unavailable in Pennsylvania. Another thing that we found with Pennsylvania is that they're using a voting system that's basically 1980s technology. They don't have paper. They don't have any paper records. And this is throughout the majority of the counties in Pennsylvania. One of the things that we noticed, Richard H. Phillips noticed, and then also, I can't remember their names, there's a couple of statisticians in Pennsylvania, that there were many counties in Pennsylvania where they had a 5 to 7% shift to Donald Trump on machines without any paper ballot or without any paper record, compared to absentee ballots from the same counties. So basically, the absentee ballots where you have a physical ballot, what you can read, there's a documentation there. They were for Clinton 5 to 7% more than what these machines were doing. Now, typically, and this is just something that I've always thought about, is that people that do absentee ballots tend to be older, they tend to be more Republican, they tend to be more conservative. And so for me, it's kind of surprising that what we're seeing is the opposite with a number of these counties. Now, one of the things that we've been told is that these machines are not hackable because there's no access to the internet on either of these machines, nor the computers that are the tabulators that control their software. And that the corruption or intrusion would have to happen in person. Though one of the things that a number of people are saying is that, through an infective jump drive, a USB drive, that it's something that could contaminate a system. And honestly, nobody's proven to us that this hasn't happened. Obviously, we haven't had the access that we wanted to the machines. Either Recount Now, other independent investigators, or the Stein campaign. None of that has happened. Moving on, I want to talk a little bit about Michigan. Now, in Michigan, Greg Palast is saying that there were 75,000 people that were purged for the voter rolls from the cross-check program in Michigan alone. The vast majority of these were minority voters. Okay. Now, during the recount, the rules set forth from the Secretary of State basically prevented an accurate recount from happening. So one of the things that I noticed, I was in Michigan, is that they were telling us, so the canvass workers were actually going through and they were counting the different ballots. They counted how many ballots there were, and that amount of ballots that they counted should match the amount of people that had voted in the poll books. That didn't happen. It was not recountable, and they did not recount that precinct. Now, if it was recountable, they then counted into piles. They separated the piles, votes for each of the different people that they could vote for. So the different candidates, the write-in candidates, the no votes, the undervotes, and the overvotes. The no votes would be undervotes. And each of those piles were made up, and then at that point in time, they would then count each of those piles and see how many ballots each of those candidates got. One of the things that they did, that they were doing at first, was they wanted to make sure that, and it makes sense, that they wanted to make sure that the number of ballots in each of these piles equaled the number of ballots that they originally counted. That also matched the poll books. Well, at one point, we had 5 Trump lawyers at the table that I was at objecting to this, saying that there should only be one recount and that there should be no reconciliation between the amount of ballots that were done. Yes, Emily, you can delete the false starts, and we can kind of go from there. So that each of those, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. Can you delete my brain fart at this point in time? I don't think you can, but that would be nice. So that we were told that we were unable to reconcile the amount of ballots that we had versus the amount of ballots in each of the piles. And so there was no effort. In fact, and we had a representative from the Secretary of State's office basically tell us to our face. And so in this particular situation, Clinton lost 5 votes, even though we did an accurate recount a second time because there was something mismanaged. And anyway, I wrote about it on my website, recountblog2016.com, a little bit more in detail with that. Another thing that we noticed in Wayne County is that there were hundreds of ballots that were missing. Part of the reason why so many, I think it was more than a third of the precincts in Wayne County were unrecountable, is that the amount of people that voted versus the amount of ballots were not matching up. Now, I don't know if that was incompetence. I don't know if that was manipulation from people in that county, election workers in that county. During the recount, we were unable to investigate further. Now, in some of the more right-wing literature websites, they've kind of drawn to that fact. But one of the things that I noticed there is that at the time, it was the Republican Secretary of State as well as the Trump lawyers that were blocking any kind of investigation further into what was going on. I'm not saying that they were hiding something in it, about that. I think that it was their policies that were blocking it. So basically, there was a lot of blockages, and this is in a state where, according to the law, a recount should have happened, but it became a partisan thing taken up to the Supreme Court of the state that had a majority of judges that basically voted for the cancellation of the recount in order to support their candidate. The next thing that I want to talk about is Wisconsin, and this I'm just kind of like building this up as inflammatory as we go, and this is, I think, probably the most important thing that we've seen so far is that the machines there in a number of counties, they were actually connected to modems. Now, these modems supposedly were the election commissions, the election, I can't remember what it's called there, the boards there, admitted to this, that this was a normal procedure, that these were supposedly sending information to the central tabulation systems. But this is a really big deal that we've had a number of people looked at this information and saying, hey, this is all hackable. This isn't just simple Wi-Fi, that this is what these things are connected to. When they're connected to a cellular modem, they can actually get into not just the internet, but also, be hacked into from longer distances. That basically that there would be, some type of a call-in number, I think. That's my understanding of how it would be. Now, so this is kind of like the biggest thing. Now it's not just in Wisconsin that this is happening. One of the people here in Cuyahoga County that is an election integrity person, really great person, she's saying that that this system is actually here in Cuyahoga County. Basically, this is in many places all across the country, and we believe that this is a danger to free and fair elections. The other thing of this is that James Comey, the head of the FBI, he basically either lied to Congress and said that that these machines were not able to be connected to the internet, or he was just ignorant, didn't know what is going on. And one of the things that we find time and time again dealing with these election officials is that, I think that there's some people that want to manipulate things, that want to hide things. But then there's also other people that are election workers that are just ignorant. They just don't know what's going on, and they don't understand the capabilities of the systems that these proprietary systems that they're getting from these private corporations. Anyway, moving on from Wisconsin, there were one of the things that we know is that the counties that had most of the problems statistically in Wisconsin were the same counties that were recounted by machines. They were not hand counted. This was also some of the most populous counties in Wisconsin that also trended Democratic. I know that there was at least one exception to that. I do want to say a little bit about the cost of the recount. The last statewide recount that occurred in Wisconsin was for a Supreme Court race, and in that cost, the final fee for that was under $600,000, and this was in 2011. This recount, now that one in 2011 was a full hand recount, and the recount this time ballooned, over $3.5 million, and basically, we believe that there's an outrage, and especially I think like Racine, and I'll get to Racine in a minute, that their quote for the cost of the recount was just exorbitant, and we feel that that's just really outrageous. We also found that in Brown and Rock counties in Wisconsin, ballot images were destroyed illegally. Both counties were flagged before this event by our statisticians that there was something going on with that. You know what? I can't remember if these were ones that were hand counted or if they were machine counted. I believe they were both machine counted. If somebody could make a comment, that would be great, and confirm that. Maybe you can, Emily. And then also in Wisconsin, I posted this in our Facebook feed below. Lulu Freistat, I think that's her name. She's not with the Recount now, but she's posted a number of videos on the Wisconsin Recount. In one of them, she published a video of observers witnessing an error rate of about 5% with one of the electronic readers in Racine. It's really, really worth watching, and there's something up with that. And also in that video, you kind of see the pushback that we got, not just in Racine, but a number of other counties in preventing a free and open recount process. I think that's really important video to watch. Finally, one of the things I'm going to talk about Nevada, and basically in Nevada, what we've learned is that the recount in Clark County was basically fraudulent, okay? And we are calling for a criminal investigation as well as reimbursement for fees paid for that recount. So basically the Reform Party presidential candidate Rocky De La Fuente filed for a partial recount in Nevada. And he requested a recount in 5 counties. The recount started on December 5th, and basically it started off with like huge irregularities. Ballot boxes were unsecured, seals were broken, observers were not able to observe the ballots. They were unable to listen to conversations with election officials and workers, and were unable to read the writing on ballot boxes. They basically were like fenced away, far away, and they were unable to really observe anything. They were just kind of there, and they took notes, and they were able to talk to I can't remember, Joe Gloria. They were able to talk to Joe Gloria, who was the Clark County Registrar of Voters. He's basically the head person there for elections in Clark County. And during one of these communications, these talks with Joe, man, I'm so sorry. I pulled up the wrong one. Okay, so Joe Gloria. These comments, I'm sorry, this one of these conversations with Joe Gloria is that he admitted that they wanted to get it right, so they ran it again before the recount. So what they did was he admitted that they counted these ballots 3 times. First time, election night. That's understandable. Second time, in preparation for the recount, they opened the ballot boxes and they counted the ballots. Now, we've talked to one of the lawyers that's been helping out with us, a volunteer, and she's gone through the Nevada law, and they're saying, this is illegal. This is not right. You should not be doing this in private. You should not be doing a dress rehearsal for a recount in private. And one of the things that kind of struck a nerve for me personally is that this is exactly what we saw in Cuyahoga County in 2004. And two people were sentenced to prison for their actions involved with that. Now, some of us believe that it wasn't just them. It was something, some of us believe that it went right up to the top. Michael Vu was the Board of Elections, head of the Board of Elections here. He's now wreaking havoc in San Diego, if I understand correctly. But, these things should not happen. We're basically calling for a criminal investigation of this. And we believe that Rocky should sue and get his money back. Now, basically partial recounts, what we've learned, one of the things we've learned is that these partial recounts and by extension, these paper ballots do not in and of themselves ensure honesty, accuracy, and fidelity to our election systems, okay? Our future as a democracy is dependent on significant changes. Without fair, public, and observable vote counting, recounting, and audit systems, we can't have faith in the outcome of our elections. And I'm not just talking about the presidential election, this previous presidential election. I'm not talking about Republicans and Democrats. I'm talking about state races. I'm talking about local races. Anybody that has the means to manipulate that and they're hiding it, we should call into question of this. Any close race brings doubt to my mind about what is going on behind the scenes. The pushback that we found from the Board of Elections, these different city and county entities that run these elections, in their way of hiding what is going on, has personally, I have no trust in what's going on with the systems. It shouldn't be our job to prove that there's been fraud. It shouldn't be our job to prove there's been tampering, okay? Basically, it should be the job of the election boards, these election entities, the governments, that should prove to us that there is accuracy with our election systems, okay? This did not happen this time around at all. So basically, one of the things that I'm asking people to do is to educate yourself. Some of the links that we've posted here on Recount now go to different sites talking about different things on the problems with our electoral systems. So a couple of these is not in any order. Brad Blog has historically had some great stuff on election systems. Jonathan Simon, he wrote the book Code Red, as well as he's part of the Election Defense Alliance. Two different websites. There's a lot of good information. Election Defense Alliance has been more historical information about the problems with our electoral system. Hopefully they'll get bumped up a little bit and start doing some more things. Election Nightmares actually has a lot of good videos with John Brakey, who's been working with us a little bit, and has some information about not just this recount, but also other issues with election integrity. Of course, Bev Harris, her Black Box Voting website is an immense resource of materials of how things can get manipulated, how you can become active locally, and what to do. Who, What, Why is a website that's had some really good up-to-date news about the recount and elections. I know that I'm missing a number of other places, and I apologize for that. Maybe some other people can add those websites in the comments. But I really believe that those are, becoming more knowledgeable about the vulnerabilities of our electoral system, I think is really, really important. And then the other thing that I think is important that people should do is take on becoming active on a local level. Most of these election entities, Board of Canvassers, Board of Elections, whatever it is that they're called, most of them have meetings, regularly scheduled meetings, and I'll encourage you to actually go and visit them. Take part in those meetings. Find out what kind of software they're using. Ask people that have been involved with election integrity, hey, is this something that we should be worried about locally? Read the minutes of these meetings. See if there's, anything that's going on with that, and educate the people around you about the importance of these issues, as well as what's going on these local levels. These are big things that are happening. It's not just what we found here. I think that's something that our electoral system is broken, and we need to fix it. Again, there's another video by Lulu Friestad, and one of the things that she was saying that when it came to civil rights, it took decades for things to happen. And many of us have been working for decades on election integrity issues. And it's not something that is going to be fixed quickly, especially now. So I'm going to encourage people to take the long view of it, long haul strategy, and become really active on a local level. Thank you. That's it for my presentation tonight. I hope I didn't bother you with too much of my ums and ahs, and I welcome you to take on the next steps and be active in having a democracy here in the United States. Thank you.